of the game. Now, here's Larry Krueger and Lorenzo Neal.
All right, welcome in, Hilton Santa Clara. It's John Dickinson pinch hitting for
You're not Larry.
Larry Krueger.
You're a lot prettier.
Lo Neal in the house as well. Brother? And, sitting in for Larry. As you know, we'll just full disclosure, traffic can be a nightmare around Levi Stadium, especially for the first game and the first Sunday home game.
No question.
And so if you didn't leave last night, you might not be here yet. And Lo, I know you were out in the parking lot and just kind of hanging out. I think you brought the trailer, the motorhome, whatever it be.
Absolutely. I stayed the night last night, like you said, so I wanted to make sure I was going to be on time. So stayed here at the hotel, and nice spot. Beautiful day today. Football's in the air. Third game of the season. JD, got to be excited. That's why the traffic is unbelievable. This team is one of two teams that are undefeated, still trying to fight, and look like the Miami Dolphins are going to be in a slugfight with the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited. Who has it better than the Niners right now? Nobody, right?
Yeah, the 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals today, another divisional matchup for San Francisco, as this will be their second divisional game. The 49ers beating the Rams back in week 2 a couple of weeks ago down in Southern California. The Niners, of course, come in low 3-0. They're looking to go to 4-0 for the first time since 2019 when they started 8-0 and, of course, finished 13-3 and wound up going on to the Super Bowl in Miami in that season. And the Cardinals come in at 1-2, but it's been a competitive 1-2. I think the Cardinals, similar to the Rams, you look at them on paper coming into the season, you think, what's this team going to be all about? Are they going to be a team that's even committed to winning for the first 17? But in these first 3 games, the Cardinals have been highly competitive, including the wire-to-wire, led-from-the-jump victory over the Dallas Cowboys last week. And we thought that next week's game was going to be the Niners at 4-0 and Dallas at 4-0. Well, Arizona said, no, we got something to say about that. And they look like a much more formidable opponent for the 49ers than you would have originally thought.
Oh, no question, JD. You hit the nail right on the head. When you think about the Arizona Cardinals and what they've been able to do, let's be real and just tell it like it is. This team very well should be 2-1. When you think about the deficit that the Giants had to come from behind to beat Arizona, Arizona should have never let that game get away from them. So you could be looking at a team that is 2-1 and playing the Niners, and you watch Arizona, and just like you just alluded to, the way they beat up on the Dallas Cowboys and got after it when Dallas started to make that comeback, they showed that they could respond. And I'm just kind of surprised just looking at this Arizona team with a quarterback that people thought was just going to be a backup, a guy who's just going to hold it, be a stopgap guy until Calamari gets back. I like to call him Calamari until he gets back. But just seeing what they're able to do without him and looking at how this offense and this team has still rallied around the quarterback, around Dobbs, and seeing the way that everyone, revolves around Dobbs, really surprised the way that they're competing, and they're competing at a high level.
Yeah, blown leads the order of the first 3 weeks for Arizona, at least week 1 and week 2. A back-and-forth game for them in week 1 at Washington. They had a 16-10 lead in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Commanders ended up scoring the final 10 in that one. And then, of course, they had the massive lead in their home opener against the Giants before the Giants came here. And, the Giants outscoring the Cardinals 31-8 in the second half of that one, including 17-0 in the fourth quarter. It looked like maybe Dallas was going to get it going again against them in week 3, but no, they had answers for the Cowboys in that game. And I think
what has it been when you look at it? When you think about Arizona, because like you said, a team that outside before the season started,
running the football and a friskier defense. I think for the most part, a defense that seemingly is flying around and trying to make plays. But I think their ability to run the football is going to be a really the first, I think, maybe most legitimate test for the Niners defensively as far as being able to stop the run. When you look at it's so funny. You look at the first. Everybody does this. I do this. You look at on paper, right? Oh, Pittsburgh's going to be this. Like I said it before this. I thought Pittsburgh, that might be the toughest game on the whole schedule. Going to Pittsburgh week 1, 49ers boat race them. Took the crowd out of the I mean Warner hits Najee Harris and they go down and score right away, and it was like night, like right from the jump. And then you think a team like the Rams is basically tanking for Caleb Williams. Doesn't happen. You think the Giants were a team that was in the playoffs last year. 49ers, for the most part, handle them. They've got not enough firepower. And then you got Arizona, who you're thinking is in that Rams category.
Right.
But they've been, with the new head coach, they've been they've been frisky. They've been fighting. I think it's a culture shift really in play when you look at them moving off of Cliff Kingsbury and moving to where they are now. From a 49ers standpoint, though, Lo, I do want to just kind of let everybody know, it looks like they will have Deebo Samuel today. It looks like no Elijah Mitchell, no Jawan Jennings, and also Brandon Ayuk as well. It looks like he'll be back and in the fold for the 49ers in this one. So the Niners, losing one,
gaining one.
Yeah, gaining one.
Yeah.
Deebo didn't practice much this week,
right.
but he's obviously in the fold. And so, divisional games are weird, but this is still a no excuses game.
No.
Platitudes aside from the Cardinals and little tests that they can put out there for San Francisco. This is a game. This is a box that needs to be checked. Home game in the division against an inferior opponent.
Yeah, and last night, you're watching Canelo and Canelo Alvarez, a great fighter, and you see this fighter just go out there and say, hey, people thought that this was going to be a good fight, and he just jumped on him and didn't give him a chance. And that's what you saw Dallas last week. When they played against Arizona, they let them have a chance. They let them stay around, JD. They said, hey, the turtle and the hares. They said, okay, we're good enough to win. You look at Dallas's defense, what they've been the last several weeks. We thought best defense in football. Let's be real and call it like it is. In 2 weeks, if you take away that game, you look at the Dallas Cowboys defense and what they brought to the table and how they were just motorboating people. You said this Dallas defense, to me, right now, may be a formidable defense like the Niners and maybe better. And then you watch Arizona. And that, to me, is strictly, if I'm looking at this outside looking in, to me, I think that's a coaching. I think that McCarthy allowed this team to say, we're getting ready to play an Arizona team that don't know how to win. They've had 2 games where they were behind, they had a lead, and they found a way to lose it. Good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. And so you saw a Dallas Cowboy team go in there and think, okay, this is a team that's going to find a way to lose. The team's going to quit, and they didn't. So I think that Dallas Cowboys game is not who they really are. I know that you say you are who you are, but I just think that you came in flat, and that's what I love about Cal Shanahan. A Cal Shanahan football team, they go out and you watch. Since he's been here, look, this team is going to go out and they're going to fight and they're going to play, and that's what you want to see today. And if Cal Shanahan and these guys, and you hear Cal Juszczyk and all the messages that it's always been, it's next game. It's not just that. We know the end of the goal, they want to win a Super Bowl. And they have their sight on that, and they're going in each week, and it's game by game. And that's what I like about this 49er team, and that's why I don't see any letdowns.
Yeah, they said they wanted to get off to a good start. They've got the extra time from playing the Thursday night game and the home opener against the Giants. I think they can look twofold at the game that Arizona just played at home against Dallas last week and say, look, no looking ahead, no trap game, right? Because you know what the Cardinals are capable of because they just did it to the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
That's a team, obviously, you're scouting to look ahead at, so the tape lines up in a number of different ways, and you go, wow, they dominated the game, to be honest. Then the Cowboys got back in it, and Arizona had some answers in some of the key moments. So to me, there's really, when you look at the way this thing stacks up, there's no excuse with the extra rest and time to prepare, with the Cowboys game coming up that you just saw what Arizona did to them, as far as a letdown, a trap game, all of those things shouldn't be on the table for me coming into this one for the 49ers. All right, it's John Dickinson sitting in for Larry Krueger. Larry is on his way.
Larry.
And will be here
Get over here, Larry.
And Larry will be taking over for me with Lo. It is the Kickoff show. We are at the Hilton Santa Clara.
Yes.
Want to let everybody know that. As stop by, say hi. The tailgate is ongoing out here in the parking lot and out front. The food trucks are out. 49er fans are coming in and enjoying some beverages.
Absolutely.
Lo, looks like you're about to get the cigar going for the folks watching on YouTube.
I want them to understand. Sit back, get your popcorn, get your little cigar, and just say, it's football. Football's in the air. And this is the weather. How about this weather, JD? How about fall? Is this one of the best times of the year?
Beautiful.
You love it?
It's the best time of the year in the Bay.
Yes.
It's the best time of the year in the Bay. And, October 1st.
Right.
So October, the weather's starting to turn a little bit, but it is still some of the most perfect weather time of year in the Bay is definitely late September and as you get into October. And the 49ers with some big-time expectations. It really feels – I was thinking about this driving in this morning. I left real early. I left about 4 a.m.
I was going to say, JD, we thought we stayed out last night.
It might as well have been last night as early because I get excited.
Sure.
But I was thinking about this driving in. Niners had the home opener was Thursday Night Football. And
Right, loved it.
It's October. It's Sunday. You're driving to the game. Like, this really feels in a lot of ways like the real first home opener.
Yes.
Because
It really
it's
does.
Sunday afternoon. It's got that perfect Bay Area October weather. It's a divisional opponent. The expectations are high. 49ers fans are fired up.
Right.
And it just, I don't know, there is a little extra juice, I think, with the calendar flip and all of those things.
Oh, no, it is. You look at the clouds, no hardly any clouds in the sky, but it's that crisp red weather that you're like, okay, you breathe it in, you're like, man, it's just refreshing. You look at this and you're like, man, this is what football's all about. You watch the Arizona crowd come in, the fans, you watch the Niners fans, you just watch them all come together, and it's about their team. For 60 minutes, it's about your team, and it's great because talking to some Arizona fans this morning, like, hey, we got a chance. They're talking about, hey, look, who's Kyler Murray? They're talking about, hey, we got a team that's fighting. We got a team that, hey, we should be undefeated. They look at this Arizona right now. They're looking at this saying, very well, we could be 3-0. We could be an undefeated team. And a lot of people say that this team has exceeded expectations. So when you look at Arizona, what they're doing, and just the day, it's going to be a big game. And I think the Niners understand that. So I'm excited. I'm excited just about the state of the NFL. The teams that you thought that were just going to be dominant, sometimes they don't come out as well as you think. I mean, I thought the Chargers would be, undefeated. You look at, you talked about the Niners. We know the Niners are going to be a pretty good team. Philadelphia, another team that you look at that's played well, that looks like it could be a formidable matchup, that may still be the favorite for the Super Bowl. How have you seen them? Because I know we're going to, we can talk X's and O's about Arizona. That's going to be the matchup. But when you look at in the first 3 weeks, what do you like about Philadelphia? What gives you say, hey, man, this could be this team. I see why the Niners and them looks like a collision course. What are some of the tangibles? Because you like football, JD. What do you see about Philadelphia that says, man, this is a good team in the NFC?
Their defense seems a little bit more vulnerable than it was last year. I think their offense was a little bit out of sync. I mean, but yet they come in 3-0. It's interesting. I'm just looking at some of the scores from the morning games, and the Commanders have jumped out to a 14-7 lead on them. In Philadelphia, if you remember, the Commanders beat them last year. They were one of the few teams and beat them in Philly. So that's one of those weird
rivals
matchup things, divisional game. Maybe one of those things you don't think. You look on paper, like, the Eagles, they're gonna cruise, but the Commanders are driving on Philly. So with a 14-7 lead already and looking to get some more points late in quarter number 2. Again, that's a game that gave Philly problems last year when Philly was in cruise control. But they just look, I don't want to say getting the Super Bowl hangover or anything, because they are 3-0, but they just haven't quite looked as crisp, as dominant. They just seem a little more vulnerable to me. And I think the 49ers to this point have really been, for the most part, on all cylinders. I think defensively, I think there are strides that they can make to get better. But as far as Brock Purdy, I think there's little things he could hit some of those wide open deep balls that are open for him. I think there's things he could do better. But I feel like the 49ers are in a better place with a level to get to, maybe more than we've seen from Philadelphia in 3 games.
No question. That's why we're just going around and looking at just the state of the NFL.
And maybe the loss of Jonathan Gannon, who came over to be the head coach of Arizona, who we're going to see today on that defensive side for Philadelphia, why they're not quite, losing Hargrave, although the rookie has been tremendous on the interior.
He's been a boy dog. He's wrecking shop. Probably would have been a first pick or first top 5 picks if, unfortunately, with the incident that happened. But he's shown what type of talent he is, and he can be what a force. When you think about the Niners, and this team has been predicated, we know, JD, in the last 5 years, people talk about defense. You talk about, did Jimmy get them to the Super Bowl, or was it the defense? So it just seems different. When you think about the teams that were led by Jimmy and compared to now, do you think now, is this team led by offense or defense? How is this team, when you think about the Niners now, think about the dynamics the last several years. Everyone talked about, Jimmy. Is it his team? Is he leading, or is it the defense? How do you compare and contrast just the state of the Niners right now?
It does feel like Brock Purdy's a bigger part of the action. I will say that.
Me too, yeah.
It does feel like he is a more trusted part of the action at this point, and they are able, because of him, not necessarily – plays that he makes specifically, although I do think it's part of it, but the plays that he's able to make, I think allows for Kyle Shanahan to get in his bag a little bit more and it allows for more explosive plays in the running game. It just keeps everything on schedule to where some of the plays that are dialed up are able to be hit more frequently. So I think everything just runs smoother off. When I think of the Niners, though,
it's crazy. You're
jump in
that.
on that real quick, because
I think you're right. I look at this team now. I think that it's an offensive. I think offense have shown consistency. I think the offense, like you said, because Brock Purdy gets the ball out of his hand and he understands Kyle Shanahan what's he want, he doesn't make it about the quarterback position. He doesn't say, I'm going to hold the ball to try to take these deep shots all the time. Brock says, I'm going to get the ball out. I'm going to be efficient. I know where the ball should go. I know what I should do with the ball. And that's why their offense, to me, seems like it's way more efficient than it has been than Jimmy. And it's going to be interesting because now when you look at where the Raiders at.
And fewer mistakes.
That's the part. Fewer mistakes, less turnover, and just the more consistency, keeping the offense moving. So I do agree with you there. And I think the defense and offense, they can continue to make strides. But I think ultimately, Christian McCaffrey, what he's brought to this offense too.
McCaffrey's next level, the whole thing. I think it really has been twofold. It's been McCaffrey, it's been Purdy's ability to just keep everything flowing and moving, and the off-schedule plays that Purdy's been able to make when things break down, or maybe when the right call isn't made, he's still able to make big plays. It just feels like the 49ers are closer offensively to maximizing all of their talent at this point. It's funny as we bring in Larry Krueger here momentarily, as Larry has arrived at the Hilton Santa Clara.
Larry's in the house.
Larry, we'll get Larry set up here in just a second, and the three of us can chop it up here for another 10 minutes. I'll hand everything off to Larry. You guys can roll here for the next couple of hours. But it's funny, when I think of the Niners, I still think of defensive line. I still think, and all of those things we were talking about, I still think Bosa's their best player, and I still think defensive line dominance as the tone setter for everything that the 49ers are about, even if it isn't quite as dominant, although tell that to Javon Hargrave these first couple of weeks. Tell that to Bosa as he keeps rolling these last couple of weeks. I think it's evolving into maybe every bit the defensive line that we've seen when the Niners have had their best defensive lines these last few years.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think with the additions of Hargrave or the Gravedigger, I'm going to put it this way. If they are to win the Super Bowl, they couldn't win it without him. If they are to win the Super Bowl, they couldn't win it without Bosa. But I think what he brings to the table, his quick hand movement, the punch, and how he gets underneath guys, the quickest, how he pushes the new line of scrimmage, I like what he brings to the table in that defensive line. I think that this guy was an unbelievable free agent pickup. And I'm telling you, he's worth whatever they paid him, because this guy is very disruptive in the middle, and he's a space eater, but he can beat you off the ball, and he can beat you off the snap, and he knows how to create a new line of scrimmage, and he can beat you with his hands, and he plays low. I love this addition to this team.
All right, John Dickinson here with Lorenzo Neal. Larry Krueger joins us.
Hello. Wow.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
Welcome into your show, Larry.
Good to be here. Oh, my goodness. Man, I'm excited for today. For all you people listening to 95.7 on Great American Parkway, good luck to all of you.
Right.
May the force be with you.
Exactly.
But guys, this is going to be a fun day today. It really kind of feels like the home opener, doesn't it?
Yes, we're talking about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's Sunday. It's fall. People are filing in. No question.
I love Niners Sundays, and there's so many jerseys out, and the weather's great, and this one, the beginning, not every football game, but a lot of football games, and this one in particular, it's all about run the ball, stop the run. And today's game, guys, I've looked at this game every way imaginable, and it's really comes down to Arizona Cardinals have been a great first-half football team, and they are running the heck out of the football. They're second in the NFL in yards per carry. And they're running it with James Conner. They're running it with Dobbs. Mm-hmm. They're running it with Rondale. They're running it, and they're running it really well. And they're having great first halves. And it just, to me, this game could be really tight if Arizona runs it successfully. The one thing we don't really know about the Niner run D, even though we're in week 4, is we don't know exactly how good the Niner run D really is. They struggled in the preseason stopping the run, but they've been pretty good against the run through 3 weeks. But you get the feeling today, guys, that this is going to be the ultimate test. Can they stop James Conner? Can they stop, the new offensive coordinator of the Cardinals? I think the guy's name's Petzing. They run the ball and they give you a lot of pre-snap backfield action to kind of confuse you. And they're running it with multiple guys. And if the Niners can stop the run and get a lead, I think this could be a very one-sided game where the Niners win by 3 touchdowns. But if the Cardinals get the first half the way they have in the first 3 weeks of the season, this can be a head knocker going into the fourth quarter.
It really can. And JD, listening to what Larry's saying and thinking about what I've seen thus far from the Niners. I looked at week 1 and you talk about Pittsburgh and you and I was like, man, this is going to be a tough game, maybe the toughest game of the season when you think about the Steelers and what they've been able to do over the years in playing in at that stadium and what the home crowd means to the Steelers. And watching Pinkett, quarterback, he failed miserably. I mean, you had a second-year player in Pinkett that was drafted very high, third, whatever round he was, and then you think about, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy outshined him, outplayed him, and you saw that. But then you looked at week 2. And you said, okay, how's the Niners going to handle a Rams team that maybe could be on the downside, but, they're playing for, the number 1 pick. But you watch the Rams. When they played against a quarterback that is a Pro Bowl type of quarterback in an upper echelon, not saying a top 10 quarterback anymore, but Stafford, an upper echelon quarterback, what did he do? That game wasn't over. So people think, they played good against. Let me tell you, the Rams were in that game. That turnover, the biggest thing that won that game, Larry and JD, I think it was a turnover battle. If the Niners don't get those turnovers, how's that Ram game to you?
Well, the Rams, I thought, were playing the perfect game up until the point where the ball bounced off the running back's hands and the Niners picked it. But that also goes to show, I think, to give credit to the Niners how good they are, to where you almost have to play a perfect game to beat them right now, especially if you're a middling type team. And the Rams, they're up 20-0 on Indy right now, so they're looking like a team that's going to be 2-2. And a solid 2-2. I think they didn't play great in Cincinnati, but I think when you look at the Niners, I think the Cardinals are a lot like the Rams in the sense that we all thought they were going to be tanking for Caleb Williams, and they've been able to figure out ways to remain competitive, and it just goes to show how we think of an NFL schedule one way, Larry, going into a season, and immediately it flips, right? Sure. Immediately it's like, well, Pittsburgh's not as good as we thought. The Rams and Cardinals are better. Dallas, we think, is strolling in here 4-0. Cardinals hand it to them, and now we're looking at the Niners having to avoid a potential trap game. Although, how could it be a trap game, Larry, if you look at what the Cardinals just did to Dallas if you're San Francisco?
Well, and it's funny. There's the perception and reality, right? The perception was that the Rams are bad and the Cardinals are bad.
Right.
But in reality, after watching the Rams, Stafford is real.
Yep.
We knew that. But Puka Nacua is real.
Smart guy.
Kyron Williams, the Notre Dame running back, is real. Tutu Atwell, the speedster from Louisville, is real. So they had some real weapons, and I'm sure those guys have probably been a part of that 20-0 shellacking right now against the Colts in Indy. But then you fast forward to the Cardinals. New regime here, right? Gannon's a defensive guy. I think if there's anything that's been impressive about the Cardinals, it's that they didn't even have Dobbs until camp.
Right.
And Dobbs is playing really, really well. But defensively, I look at that Cardinal defensive front seven, and I'm going, how are they doing this? How is Jonathan Gannon dialing up pass rush with Gardeck and these guys?
Right.
I mean,
just guys. Bunch of guys.
Yeah, just a bunch of guys. I don't see anybody. I was looking at their depth chart. I don't see anything on their defense. You got to get Kazir White blocked. And Catrell Clark, the rookie corner from Louisville, is real, and he's had a real nice start. But their front, it's a 3-4 defense. Victor Dimukeje and Dennis Gardeck and Xavier Collins. I mean, this is what they're operating with off the edge, and they're getting pressure. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the Cardinal offensive line on the other side with this new offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, I thought the offensive line was horrible. On paper, Elijah Wilkinson, who's he?
Right.
That whole right side of the line is very questionable. But they drafted Paris Johnson. He's been pretty good. We'll see what he does against Bosa. I guess if there's one thing that's really shocking is the Cardinals, to me, look really subpar on the line of scrimmage. And at least through 3 weeks, hasn't been the case.
No, and I think to that point that you're making, Larry, I think Arizona should be undefeated. When me and JD was talking about it earlier, they've had leads and they've found a way to lose these games. But it's interesting when you bring in a coach, and you bring in a coach that can give life and be able to speak into those men and make guys play above their level or just play mistake-free football and believe in what they're doing, believe in the system. You look at what Deion did, for Colorado. The first 3 games, you played against teams that you could beat or teams that were equal to you in talent. Now, you knew the last 2 games are going to be tough, but you saw how people react when you have a belief system. And that's what's happening there in Arizona. The belief in the players and the coach has spoke life, and that's why this team, to me, is playing with energy, a sense of urgency, and they've been just a buzzsaw.
John Dickinson, I'm going to get out of the way, hand it off here to Larry Krueger, along with Lorenzo Neal. We are at the Hilton Santa Clara, 49ers and the Cardinals coming up. Niners looking to go 4-0 for the first time since 2019. Of course, that was the year they went to the Super Bowl. Guys, have a great show. This is the first of 5 straight football Sundays for the Niners, all in October. Should be a lot of fun, and always fun getting an opportunity to chop it up with you guys as well. So we'll have a chance to do that again here over these next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to it. But Larry, I'll hand it to you. We'll pause here. We'll come back, and the guys will have the rest of the kickoff show taking you up to the 49ers and the Cardinals.
You're the best, JD.
95-7 the game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And who's the best?
It wasn't...
Now back to the Kickoff Show with Larry Krueger and Lorenzo Neal, live from the Hilton Santa Clara on 95.7 The Game.
And we continue down here in Santa Clara. Larry Krueger and Lo Neal getting you ready for 49er football. The Cardinals and the 49ers, and we're here at the Santa Clara Hilton. And you know, Lo, to me, the big question in this game is on the 49ers defensive side of the ball. The 49ers defensively, can they stop James Conner? Can they stop the Cardinals' run game? That, to me, is the big question. The Cardinals have started super fast in all three of their games. They've scored points on 11 of 15 first-half drives, and they've outscored their opponents 54-20, plus 34 in the first half. To me, that's why the Cardinals have looked as good as they've looked. There we go. We turned up a little bit. There we go. There we go. I was saying the reason that I think the Cardinals have looked so good in the first 3 weeks of the year, even though they're 1-2. You mentioned it; they could be 3-0. But the reason they've looked so good is they've gotten the games on their terms.
They have,
and if they can run the ball, all of a sudden everything stems from there. And last week against Dallas, they ran it so well, 222 yards, over 7 yards a carry for James Conner. And if that happens again today, this is going to be a really, really tough football game to win.
It will. And you look at James Conner, the way that he's running, he's downhill, he's physical, and this is a guy that they're going to have to tackle. And I think all week long, I know the 49ers had a couple extra days rest, which is great, so you got to give them the advantage. But I guarantee the message has been from Kyle Shanahan, the defensive coordinator, to DC, it's been like, guys, we got to wrap up. Guys, we got to tackle. Because James Conner, he runs downhill. He's one cutting downhill. Not fast, but he's physical. Not nothing, but he's powerful. He's not really, really, really nifty, but he's going to run through you. He's going to give a shoulder and take a shoulder. So that's what Arizona's going to do, is say, let's stay ahead of the sticks. Let's win on first and second down, and let's make sure on third down we can run our pass. That's going to be their game plan, and that's kind of what, if you look at a team like the Rams, that's what the Rams did to the Niners, Larry, to keep themselves in the game. They said, look, let's win on first and second down. We got a receiver that's just like Cooper Kupp, that's going to be able to find his way open, and that's why you saw that relationship between him and the quarterback starts to flourish, because they understand where to beat the zone. They understand where the pressure's coming, and that's just a timing. Can Arizona do that consistently with run? The Niners used to be that type of offense where it was predicated on the run game. When you had Breida to Cheat and the other guys, it was about run the ball, throw it with Jimmy when you had to, and play great defense. That's how they did. But now, I just don't know if you can do that anymore in the league and stay consistent just running the ball and hope that your defense, because I don't think Arizona has that type of defense that allowed the Niners to have so much success over the years with that type of philosophy.
Let's talk about Conner for a second. If I made you Steve Wilks, you're now the 49er defensive coordinator. What are you saying to your guys this week at practice about Conner? How do you go about tackling the big boy? Because we're talking about a back that's quite a bit bigger than your average back. What's the plan? I mean, when you're going up against a big, you already kind of perfectly crystallized it. Yeah. He's big, but he's a little faster than you think, and he's a little niftier than you think, and he's not a plow horse. He's got a little pick and slide.
Wiggle. Yeah.
There's some wiggle there. What would you say to the Niner defensive players if you're Steve Wilks about how to bring this guy to the ground?
Yeah, shout out Steve Wilks. Saw him last night at Fleming's earlier in the evening, grabbing some dinner. And just,
did you? I love Steve Wilks.
He's such a great man. I've been knowing this guy for years. Acquaintance, and just seeing what he's been able to do over the years. I mean, just a great coach. Understands football.
What was he ordering, by the way? Was it country ribeye? I mean, what were you ordering?
I just got the petite fillet.
Larry,
I'm leaning out. Dropped about 30. So I said, and Coach Wilks, he looks good. I said, Coach, you look good still. He said, both of us tooted each other's horn. He said, I look good too. You play copping back and forth. But no, I wasn't bothered. He just went over and said hello and said he's doing a great job, and it's been great to see how our defense has not slid or has not taken a step back. And Wilks is going to continue to do that. Wilks is like the defensive coordinator just says, I don't need to come after you all the time. I'm going to win with the 7. I'm going to have the 7 in the box, and our front 7 and with the linebackers, we can shut down the run. I want to make sure that I don't compromise the integrity of the secondary. And his message to this team is, we got to tackle. We got to tackle and we got to put a body on him. We got to put a body on him. We can't compromise our secondary and bring the safety down, start playing with 8, 9 guys in the box, because then on the back end, we put a lot of pressure on the corners. So I look for this team to say, first, let's try to win with front 7. And that's what this team has been able to do, is win with the 4 down and win with the 3 linebackers. And that's what makes this Niner teams great and makes them unique, because now you can roll the safety and double whoever you want to double at times because of the front and because they're able to get after guys. So that's what he's saying. He's saying, guys, if we can win with just our 7 in the box and we can control Connor, we control the game, because now you don't have to go ahead and do other things for your secondary.
You know, the Niners went up against a big back in week 1, Najee Harris.
Yeah.
And what happened was Kinlaw and Hargrave and Armstead in the middle absorbed blockers,
Yes.
kept those O linemen from climbing to that second level, kept them off of the legs of Warner and Greenlaw literally punched them in the mouth. And they took away Najee, and then the Niners got up big, and the Steelers' run game kind of pretty much disappeared from there.
I agree.
But you blocked in the NFL. By the way, you know, I've said this every year, and I'm going to say it again. Someday you belong in the Hall.
Thank you.
But, you know, and if you don't like that message, you may not want to listen to this pregame show, because I'm going to be saying that every week. But no, it really is true. You blocked, though, for some premier big backs. So you've seen lots of defenses try to stop a big running back. What is the key to stopping a big back?
Well, you got to hit him. And not just that. You
Hit him high, hit him low?
You got to hit him low, but one's got to wrap up. The biggest thing when you're playing a big back, you want to wrap him up and then wait for the cavalry. So you're going to tell guys, hold on to your corner.
Gang tackle.
And that's what you do, because now he's trying to pull. Now you're hitting body shots. And it's like a fight. You watched Canelo last night. I love watching him just go to the body and have a guy that people thought was going to win that fight. But because Canelo beat him up in the body early, it took him out later on. And that's what you do to a big back. You hold him up and wrap him up, and that's the message, and let other guys hit him. Because then in that fourth quarter, now when guys hold him up, he's going to try to get down, because you've been getting hit by a bunch of bees. And that's what the Niners do. They swarm tackle well. And when you're playing a big back, you saw it in week 1. The Niners, like you alluded to, the defensive line did not get enough credit, because you want, as an offensive line, center and guard, you want to scoop up to the Mike linebacker. As a tight end and tackle, you want to tray up to the sandbacker. So you want to tray up so it's 2 guys on one, and then they tray up to the next backer, and now you make the linebacker try to run that hill. You saw Fred Warner hitting Najee Harris in the backfield. Why? Because Hargrave did such a great job of holding the center and the guard, and now Freddie Warner got to run downhill, and you saw him unclean, unscathed, untouched, and he got to meet the back in the hole, and he got to meet him running full speed. I like Fred Warner's chance against anybody if you let him run downhill and he's not catching a fullback, or he's not trying to shade off an offensive guard. I don't like his chances then, especially against big backs. But if you let a linebacker that can play run downhill at the point of attack and make contact at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, more than likely, 9 times out of 10, good backers win that battle. And that's what the Niners are going to do today.
Arizona, there was a couple really interesting pieces of information this week. Arizona's quarterbacks have attempted 82 passes in the first 3 weeks of the season. That's the fewest of any starting quarterback in pro football. The wow stat is, the Cardinals have been run heavy. We've been talking about that. 47% run so far. That's 4th best in the NFL. To me, when I'm looking through all those numbers, trying to get a sense for the profile of this football team, this Arizona team, Arizona's running play action on 36% of Dobbs' dropbacks. That is the highest percentage in the entire league. But what really jumped out is his QBR with the run or with play action and without it. With play action, Dobbs' QBR is 84. Without it, it's 34.
Wow.
He
That's
absolutely has to have the complementary run game. And the thing that's so interesting about the Niners, their run D has not been tested in the first month of this year. Opponents have just run the ball 43 times. That is the fewest run attempts against any team in the league all year. Oh. So today, I would imagine, if the Niners can somehow jump on top of the scoreboard early and take away the run, man, this could be a very one-sided game. But Arizona wants it the other way. They want to get on the board early, get a lead early, and have that play action, for Dobbs all 4 quarters. And if it happens, then Dobbs suddenly looks kind of dangerous, right? Because he himself is mobile.
Absolutely. And what does teams do with the Niners? You think about what the Niners do offensively. Purdy does a magnificent job of saying, I'm going to run Kyle Shanahan's offense. And how's that look? That's getting the ball out of his hands quick. That's not letting defense put any pressure on him because the ball's coming out. That's now the corners, they got to jump everything and start squatting and down. Safeties have to start coming up. And then, boom, bombs away. We take some shots over the field. This is what same thing that Arizona is going to try to do. They're going to try to run the ball and say, okay, safety's getting nosy. Now you got to put your head in the box. We got to set down the run. And if Arizona can have those success running the ball, like you said, and now the quarterback Dobbs can turn his back to the defense and get play action and go downfield because they are having success running, it can be a long day and it can turn into a dogfight. That's why it's imperative. Arizona has to come out and say, we have to establish some type of running game. We cannot go out here and say we're going to play street ball and we're going to sit here and just throw the ball over the yard because Dobbs is not that type of quarterback,
no.
And they know that. And the Niners know that. And now I think the one thing we got to talk about is what the crowd noise is going to mean to the Niners. That is going to be huge for the Niners, huge, because you're playing a team that wants to run the ball, but if you can get this team now to jump off sides on first down, now it's 1st and 15, you take away the run. So it's going to be paramount that the Niners play discipline and don't let them get in those 3rd downs where they can go play action. Don't let them win on 1st and 2nd down so they can go play action for Dobbs can take some shots down the field. Because like you said, when you bring those safeties and everyone starts bringing up, now play action can really hurt this team. So it's going to be interesting because they are going to be battle tested for the first time this year with a team that may run the ball 30 times and the Niners haven't even been ran against, only 43. So you're going to see over 30 times probably they some type of run.
Yeah. To me, there's 2 narratives that we're going to hear in the postgame. We're going to hear, hey, this Niner run D's got issues, or, man, the Niners look monster because they stopped the run and they blew out the Cardinals and bring on Dallas. Yeah. I think it's going to be one of those narratives. But I'll tell you, the thing that was interesting watching the Dallas-Arizona All-22, and a lot of people criticized Dallas, and Dallas was a little sloppy last week. They had a number of untimely penalties. That really hurt them. But when I really looked again at that film, it's this new offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, for the Cardinals. The Cardinals' offense made Dallas's defense tentative. They were just tentative. And the reason they were tentative is because there was a lot of misdirection. There was a lot of Rondale Moore on motions. And, the combination, you say, well, how does, Connor's not the most elusive back. How are they having such success? They're having such success because they're giving you a lot of pre-snap eye candy. And here's the threat of Rondale. And Rondale is a 4.29 burner.
And he's strong.
He is. He's compact and strong.
My son played him with Purdue. That's
right. Your son was a D tackle at Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue. Bowler up, hammer down. And watching Rondale, the dude squats 500-600 pounds. He's explosive. He can play slot. He can play running back. He can run. You get him out there, he's hard to tackle. He's got a lot of moves in space. And so what they do, believe it or not, reminds me a lot of what the 49ers, not saying it's the same offense, but they make you play every blade of grass. And that's what happened to Dallas. Dallas is a team that wants to run and get after you because they're fast, they can move, they can hit you. You know what they are. But what Arizona did is they made them play every blade of grass, and guys had to stay home, and you saw some huge creases. And that's what the Niners do well. So this Arizona team is going to make make the 49ers say, we're going to make everybody play every blade of grass. We're going to see how sound they are. Can they play sound fundamental football and not make these mistakes? We're going to test them out. So I want to see how the Niners respond against this Arizona team that's going to say, we're going to get you with some misdirection. We're going to use some of your same tactics that you're doing. We're going to make Nicky Bosa stay at home. We're going to see if Hargrave's going to stay here in this technique and how we're going to do it. How we're going to make the front side become the back side. What are we going to do with misdirection? Is Fred Warner, can we get guys out of sync and make them just pause for 1 second, and that's all it takes. And that's when that's when the tight end is right behind the linebacker because he paused to stop his feet for 1 second. Now you got a guy you can slip him right behind. So it's going to be interesting how the Niners handle this offense because they want them to cover every blade of grass. Larry.
Yeah, and you think of offensive football, it's about creating space. defensive football, it's about closing it down.
Yep.
It's a big day today for Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Do they read can they read what's going on in the backfield? You've played fullback, so you've seen defenses that are confused by pre-snap backfield motions and action. And as you just said, you don't need a ton of space.
No.
You just need a little wrinkle, just a little indecision, a little hesitation. That's all it takes. And then you got the quarterback. Why does it complicate things when the quarterback has mobility? Because Dobbs is not just completing a high percentage of his passes and making good decisions. He's yet to turn it over.
Yeah.
But he's also a threat to get to the edge himself.
No question. And that's what the Niners have struggled, you know that, the last several years with mobile quarterbacks because of the fact they want to run and get downhill. And now you get any type of counter boot where the quarterback fakes the run and he's booting to the outside. And now you got some outside contain. And if you don't have that contain, now the quarterback becomes a double threat. He can run or pass. And that's what makes mobile quarterbacks for the Niners, gives them fits. So now you have your Nicky Bosa. You can't just come penetrating, come straight down the line to try to tackle, the running back on a sweep play or on a play where it's a stretch play. Because if you come straight down the line, if you're a defensive end and you crash down and Dobbs knows that you're there and he pulls the ball, now he can bootleg and now he has green grass in front of him and now he can wait for the receivers to come across on those over routes. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Niners do. Do they make the linebacker stay home to cover the back and let Bosa come down the line of scrimmage, or sometimes they keep Bosa saying, you stay home and we're going to crash the linebackers? You're going to have to give them different looks because they are going to try to move the pocket. They're going to try to get to the outside. You would be crazy if you're the Arizona Cardinals to say, we have to try to get Dobbs outside the pocket. That is going to happen today.
For a Cardinal team that, not a lot of people respected, they really do put an awful lot of pressure on you on defense because it's interesting. It's like you're right. It's they make you defend the width of the field.
Yep.
They have explosive playmakers that make you defend the vertical. So you got the big back in Connor. You got the quarterback who's mobile, and then you got these explosives that come from Rondale Moore. The rookie Michael Wilson out of Stanford had a 70-yard play last week. Hollywood Brown, I think, is questionable, so I'm not sure. I know he's a little dinged up. If he goes, he's a home run hitter. So, they've got the vertical speed outside. They've got Rondale, who, man, I'll say this, too. If the 49ers are looking to add another piece to their puzzle at the trade deadline and the Cardinals do fall out of it, I would definitely call Arizona about Rondale Moore because I think Rondale...
Put him in the slot.
Yeah,
you put him in the slot.
You got Danny Gray, but Danny Gray gets hurt a lot. If you could somehow introduce a Rondale Moore to what the Niners have...
Kickoff return.
Yeah, and just as just a speedy guy that can really smart, went to Purdue, and really is football smart, and you can utilize him any different way you want. He, in some ways, to me, looks like the final piece to the puzzle for the Niners. But the other key thing is Niner defensive line against the Cardinal offensive line. This is where I think it should be a huge advantage for the Niners. Now, I love the Ohio State rookie, Paris Johnson, the right tackle. He wears number 70. But he goes up against Nick Bosa today, and Bosa is leading the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, in defensive rating. Him and slightly above Myles Garrett, who looks absolutely dominating as well.
Garrett looks bad.
Niners and Browns will hook up later this year. But you look at that Cardinal line, that to me is one of the real shockers that, Paris Johnson and Will Hernandez on the right side of that line doing a really nice job. Elijah Wilkinson is on his fourth team in 4 years. He's the other guard. Froholt is on his third team in 3 years. We're talking about undrafted guys who are just guys, going up against, Hargrave and a rejuvenated Kinlaw and Eric Armstead and Bosa and Jackson and all, maybe the NFL's best first-team defensive line right there. I think that's major advantage Niners. Bosa said this week, he's like, you know what, guys, I'm just getting back into it. It's funny. He came off the bus, after the holdout, and I saw him running around, and it's like he almost looked a little too buffed, a little too.
You look too buff.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're throwing around weights left and right. He looked a little tight. As a guy, Lowe, if you could see the guns on Lowe right now, Lowe looks like a prison guard right now. But guy like, can you be, as a defensive player, especially a guy like Bosa, can you be too big, too strong? Because it seems like now, here we are, 2-3 weeks in, he looks a little more limber. He looks a little bit more loose. He looks a little bit more like a football player and not a weightlifter. But those first games, he looked, the guy's yoked.
Right.
But
he's stacked.
But he almost looked like he looked a little too big.
I don't think you could be too big or too strong, but you can be too stiff. So I think that's what you're looking for, kind of too stiff. And I think that just comes to being playing football. You don't want to go out there the first play and say, okay, I haven't been playing football. Yes, I've been out working out, but I haven't had guys touch me. It hasn't simulated what football really is. And the first place I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a swim move. I'm going to spin and spin on a knee that's been reconstructed. I'm going to spin and do something that's out of character. So I think that you have to get your sea legs back. Nick Bosa's not going out there and play like he's been playing in week 12, trying things out that you just don't do. So yes, he was that way because he wants to get sure-footed. And I think now you're starting to see him get more comfortable. He's starting to understand what he needs to do to be that football player that we were talking about. And I think it was just precaution to say, look, I don't want to do anything crazy. And that's what these coaches are telling him. Nick, get in football shape. Don't worry about trying to do something crazy out here right now. We just need you to hold a point, do what you do, and we understand what you're going to be at the end of this year. So, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Well, we did a whole breakdown on the Niners defense and the Cardinals offense. We'll flip the card and talk about the Niners offense and Brock Purdy. I also want to get your thoughts on the contract extensions for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. But let's look around the league. Week 4 right now. Larry Centers is going to join us coming out of the break in about 5 minutes or so, and we'll get a little breakdown from, it's funny. You were a fullback. He was a fullback.
Love Larry.
But, it's different, totally different players.
Right.
I mean, it's funny. You guys played the same position, but you were, a bigger, thicker sledgehammer, though you could do the splits. I don't know if people knew that at Fresno State.
There we go, baby.
You were pretty loose and limber.
You loved my split game. I know.
I saw that when you came out. I'm like, look at this guy. Look at this fullback from Fresno doing the splits.
Right.
Can you still do the splits, Love?
No. Larry, don't get me to lie. But no, Larry, no pun intended, but Larry Centers, this is a guy, you talk about Hall of Fame. I think he's one of those guys that could be in the Hall of Fame for what he did. He reminds me a lot of, believe it or not, Cal Juszczyk. When you watch the way that Juszczyk blocks, he's going to cut you, knows how to position. Larry Centers played so much like him. I think when you talk about Larry Centers as a receiver, caught 100 passes in one season.
Right.
Larry Centers, to me, was one of the best, if not, he is the best catching fullback that the league has seen. So when you think about what he brought to the game, here's one of those guys can't wait to talk to. Love this guy. I call him Little Larry. He could block. He was one of the best chip blockers that ever played. He would tear guys' ribs up when he would come by and just chip them when they're engaged with the tackle. I learned so much from Larry. He was a great guy, great man, and can't wait to get him on the show.
Yeah, and the guy had the big muscle right here, and I'm pointing to my chest.
Sure.
The guy had tremendous heart.
No question.
Tremendous heart. But you're right. He was just such a versatile weapon. Let's look at some scores from around Week 4 in the final part of this segment.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what we were going to get in Buffalo, Miami. Buffalo's up 31-14 against the Dolphins. So that also kind of makes you wonder, how bad is Denver's defense? The Denver gave up 70 to these Dolphins, and the Dolphins have scored 14 now in Buffalo. Now, it is in Buffalo, and it's a great home field for them. So much so, you know what? I think the biggest mistake of the offseason was when the new Denver head coach decided he was going to rip the old Denver head coach. Sean Payton, you can't rip Hackett like that at the presser. Every team in pro football is bringing their A game against the Broncos. I love the Bears today. They're up 28-7 at Soldier against the Broncos. The Broncos are going to get – when he said that and ripped Hackett,
you don't do that.
He crossed a line that you don't cross, and you know what he guaranteed? He guaranteed that his Broncos are getting everybody's A game from every coaching staff if they're going to spend 1 week – everybody wants to win every week. I'm not saying they don't. But you can't handle a situation where you're getting everybody's A game. And when he said that, he guaranteed that Denver was getting everybody's A game. Today they're getting the Bears' A game, 28-7 Bears.
Yeah, and I like Sean Payton and know him personally. coached me in some Pro Bowls, and him and Drew Brees.
Great coach, but he made a mistake.
Without a doubt. I was, and Larry, I'm in the same church, same crew, and I'm saying just because I know him and like him, what he did and the way that he talked about Hackett is wrong. You do not do that. You don't talk about another man's chicken. You don't talk about another coach. You don't do that. And now you see the way that he's playing, and you see the way that Denver Broncos is playing. And Sean Payton, he's caused this. And I'm going to tell you right now, the way that he's losing, it looks worse than what Hackett was doing. When you look at this team, it ain't showing you much improvement. And now because he came in and tried to dictate and how he's going to be, and he, crushing guys, trying to break guys, this team is going to have to rebuild. Denver is going to have to rebuild because he's going to run a lot of guys out. Is Denver going to be patient enough to say, let this guy clean house with the way that he wants to do it? You just can't do that to men. And the way, I know some coaches on that staff, and I watch the way that Sean's pushing guys and not giving them the breaks. His guys are dead, and they're already hurt, and it's early in the season.
Yeah, and if Denver falls out of it, maybe the Niners call Denver about Pat Surtain, maybe DJ Jones. I mean, who knows? We'll see how that goes. But
they're out of it. They're already out of it, brother.
They're out of it. They're out of it, and they're down 28-7. Ravens are beating the Browns 21-3 in Cleveland. That's a little bit of a surprise, but that's DTR today, by the way, and that's not Deshaun Watson.
What's going on with Watson, man? What's your take on that?
We'll get into that as we go because, I don't know. He's completing 55%. He's throwing the ball backwards. He doesn't look like the same guy to me. I look at his face. He looks like he's in a fog. We'll take a break here, but Titans up 24-3 on the Bengals. Rams crushing the Colts in Indy 23-6. 14-3, Saints losing to the Bucks. They have no Derek Carr today, the Saints do. Commanders are up 17-13. Eagles coming back in the third quarter at home against the Commanders. Vikings and Panthers is a 14-13 Vikings lead. Steelers losing to the Texans. Texans, I love D'Amico, and I like the Texans.
Turning it around.
Yeah, 16-3. Texans on top of the Steelers. All right, we're here at the Santa Clara Hilton getting ready for the Niners and the Cardinals. We're going to introduce the former fullback. We're going fullback on fullback. Coming up next, Larry Centers joins the conversation on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, boy!
Are you curious about who offers the best deals on top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs? The answer is surprising.
Now back to the Kickoff Show with Larry Krueger and Lorenzo Neal, live from the Hilton Santa Clara on 95.7 The Game.
Man, beautiful day for football. We're down here in Santa Clara getting you ready for the Niners and the Cardinals. Larry Krueger and Lo Neal, I decided, you know what? I can't just get by with one Pro Bowl fullback. I need another All-Pro fullback. We welcome to the show former Super Bowl champion, former All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, former Cardinal, former Washington Redskin, former Bill, former Patriot, one of the best fullbacks in the history of the NFL. The great Larry Centers joins us this morning as we get you ready, or early this afternoon, I should say, as we crest noon here. Larry,
LC!
Larry, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Lo Neal, man? What's going on, guys? Happy to join you guys today.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you, man. And I used to work for that Cardinal organization during the Buddy Ryan days, and have nothing but respect for the game that you played. And I was just saying to Larry, that you guys played the same position, but man, a distinctly different style. He was a hammerhead and would just blow people out of the hole, and a tremendous lead blocker. Where you could do it all, man. You could catch it, you could run it. You could play halfback. You could be flexed out, and it's weird as time goes on. The position that you made popular, or the way you played fullback, is kind of the way the league's going right now.
Yeah, that's the direction everything seems to be going in. I'm a little excited about watching it, kind of moving that direction. But before I go too far, Lo Neal's had his own unique style, and he was definitely a punisher who was known and feared around the league when you talk to linebackers and people from team to team. So our games were different, but I think we were both just as effective.
No question, Larry. When I watch you play and I look at a guy that's on the 49ers, Cal Juszczyk, the way that he positions, the way that you did, the way that he knows how to cut guys down, the way that you cut guys down, and your ability, you caught 100 passes in one season. I've watched you and admired you, and always with friends, but just explain, how's that work for this Niners offense, watching Juszczyk's and the way the chips, how many ribs you broke on hitting guys. When you see Juszczyk's game, how comparable is it the way that you played the game?
It is very, very close to the way I play the game. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife, and I think one of the biggest benefits of being in that type of player is that you create somewhat of a matchup nightmare for the opposing defensive coordinator and the opposing defenses. They don't really know exactly in what capacity you're going to be utilized, so they don't necessarily know how to match up to that. And that's always going to give you an advantage to be able to do some other things and allow some other players to get open at the same time.
We're roughly the same age, Larry, and I gotta ask you this question because I'm a native San Franciscan, lifelong Niner fan. But if you come up to me and say, who's your favorite football player in the history of the NFL, it's the Tyler Rose, Earl Campbell, and you were born in Tyler, Texas. How much did you watch of a young Earl Campbell growing up, and did he impact you at all? I know your games were quite a bit different, but man, everybody loved Earl.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When I was growing up, it was Earl Campbell from Tyler and Robert Newhouse, who was a Cowboys player with Oswald. And he's a guy that many people don't remember, but I watched both of those guys. I watched
block
Earl.
For Tony Dorsett. The guy had 32-inch thighs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he was a bowling ball. But watching those guys coming up, man, I think it was more or less as a young player from this area, which is a pretty remote area. It just kind of gave me the hope and the belief that I could someday maybe even become a professional athlete. And so I just utilize those guys as inspiration. And, I've been able to meet those guys here lately, too. I've been able to meet Earl Campbell and talk to him a few times. And, I'm just as wide-eyed as a little young kid would be, even now.
No question, Larry, man. Thanks for joining 95.7 The Game. Larry, let's just talk about, what you like and dislike about the game now and what's changed. And when you think about this 49er team, see how physical they are, and you watch Arizona, football's still about winning in the trenches. What do you like about the game, and what's some of the things that's changed that you don't like?
Well, one thing that stands out the most is, how they're dampening down the physicality of the game. You have to be really smart about how you impact or touch a guy, hit a guy, especially as it relates to the quarterback position. You can't hit him high, you can't hit him low, and then there's a lot of, indecision as far as that goes. What is or is not unnecessary roughness. That's one thing that I think the league needs to clear up in the next few years or so. But you can't hit a player if he's not looking. I mean, it's football. It's the reason why we wear pads, because you know that you're going to get hit. And so I just like to see the game toughen up a little bit more. And, nobody's out there trying to hurt each other, but we definitely want to be able to utilize an intimidation factor. And I think some of these rule changes are taking that intimidation factor completely out of the game.
Well, I'll tell you, on the scouting roads, I've been to Stephen F. Austin. We're talking to the former lumberjack himself, Larry Centers. Larry, you played for a number of coaches. You played for Belichick at the end. What did you? You won a Super Bowl there. What was that? What was it like playing for Bill?
Man, it was awesome. I get asked that quite a bit, and the thing that I say is, if you notice, Bill brings in guys who have done it before successfully at other places, guys who knows what they're doing, and he didn't really give me a whole lot of problems. Like when I came on the field, he just kind of gave me the assignment and trusted that I could do that assignment to that high standard, and it worked out great, man. I really enjoyed playing for Bill. He was a veteran coach, and just really loved the guy.
That'd be great.
I was looking for that answer. See, kind of ability. About Belichick, but here's a veteran guy in Larry Centers saying, for me, it was great. Okay,
we got you back. Hey, Larry, go ahead.
Hey, I got you guys. Sorry about that.
So you were talking about Bill Belichick, and Lo and I were so interested that you finished up with the Patriots and got a Super Bowl win over Carolina in a Patriot uniform. And you were telling us about Belichick, and obviously you played with a young Tom Brady as well. But tell us a little bit more about what it was like playing for Coach Belichick. Very, very smart man who's maybe the greatest defensive backfield coach in the history of the game.
A very smart coach. He's a good manager of egos, and I think that's an important characteristic that you have to have as a head coach in the National Football League. Everybody's been great somewhere, or they wouldn't be there. So sometimes those egos have a tendency to clash. And being a head coach that can help manage those egos and keep those players motivated with a common focus, I think is very important. And Belichick was great at doing that, So I really respected the guy tremendously.
Larry, when you think about the Niners and you see their run the last several years, this team has been short of excellent because they just haven't gotten over the top and winning a Super Bowl. What do you expect from them against Arizona? And understanding Arizona have Kyler Murray, it's the quarterback. But what do you expect from this Niner team, what you've seen from afar? How good can they be?
Man, I think they are most definitely a Super Bowl caliber team. I think the team has really been put together very well. John Lynch and his crew, they have all the pieces. They have playmakers all over the field on the offensive side of football. And I think they have a brilliant mind. The coach out there, I think he does a good job of keeping the defenses off balance. If they can stay healthy, I definitely see them going deep into the playoffs and maybe even to the championship. So we'll see what happens, but you got to go out and play the game.
Absolutely. Now you can't put the cart before the horse. You had a chance to play with a young Tom Brady, and you were a wide receiver. I don't know if people knew that at Stephen F. Austin, and you brought those receiving skills to the fullback position. And the one thing that Brock Purdy does right now at a really high level, he throws with anticipation, but he also has a way of leading his receivers. And the Niners lead the NFL in run after the catch, and I don't think people realize that those run after the catch yardage numbers that you see a lot of times are about the quarterback and the ability of the quarterback to lead the receiver. What do you think of Purdy from afar, and what was it like working with Brady? And those you're talking about the early. You were working with Brady before Brady was really the megastar.
Yeah, funny you bring up Brady because Brock Purdy, and I don't want to, like you say, put the cart before the horse, but Brock Purdy reminds me a lot of a young Tom Brady. He understands how to throw the ball. You mentioned throwing the ball and when he run after the catch. He has a good mixture of when to throw the ball to the receiver and when to throw the ball to the open spot and let the receiver go get the ball. And that is always a hallmark of a good quarterback because you're going to protect the ball at every turn by doing that. Very conservative. There's not a lot of flash and dash. And another thing that really stands out about Purdy is he's not afraid to take the check downs and get the money that's right in front of him. He doesn't always have to take the big chunk and make the big play. He's just consistent, and that's gonna reap dividends for this team down the stretch.
Hey, last question for you, Larry. When you played the game, do you have any stories of you and John Lynch where you maybe got him or he got you? Because you got a lot of people, and sometimes you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you.
Right. Well, I do. John Lynch was, obviously an outstanding player. Heck, he's in the Hall of Fame. But I remember almost every time we faced off, and Lo, you can probably attest to this, for some reason, his assignment was to blitz a lot. He was a big-time blitzer of a quarterback, and as a fullback, your task is usually to keep that strong safety off of your quarterback. So he and I met in the trenches quite often back in our playing days, and and you can tell him I said this. I like to think I got the best of him. I'm up on him in the long run.
Larry, you putting a stripe on a stripe, huh? Don't let him through that hole. Hey, Larry, we're going to let you go. Enjoy your NFL Sunday. Really great to reminisce with you. I'll say it, Lo, for everybody to hear. Larry Centers may have been the greatest receiving fullback in the history of the NFL.
Hands down. I'm in the same church, same pew. Larry, I love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you too, guys. Always a pleasure, man, and enjoy being on with you guys.
Thanks, Larry. There you go, the great Larry Centers. I love talking with old school football players.
Me too, right?
And isn't that interesting that a lot of people think that, the game's been made safer for the players. But here's a guy who played in a rougher era, and you played in a much more physical era than we see right now. And yet people, you would think that maybe players would be like all about player safety and less violence in the game, but it seems like I don't want to speak for anybody, but it seems like the player of yesteryear looks at today's NFL and says, it's still great, the shows are great, the league's making more money than ever, but the game is a little bit watered down.
It has, and I understand they're trying the safety of the game, and I understand, but you can't hit quarterbacks. Stephen Nair, I played with him. He was getting killed, getting hit. Played with, guys that played, Neil O'Donnell, played with Breezy when he gets injured. So played with a lot of quarterbacks that just absolutely, Scotty Mitchell when I was with the Dirty Natty in Cincinnati, John Kitna. I mean, the list of these guys that I played with, Jim Everett, Whiskey Wade Wilson, these quarterbacks, I see them get hit and like, where's the bus stop? I don't know where it's at. I'm seeing these guys, Steve Walsh get freaking smacked. So absolutely, these quarterbacks they didn't have the kid gloves on. They got absolutely smacked, and they got hit. It got get hit low. You get hit high. It didn't matter. And, they've changed the rules, and it's for the betterment of the quarterback. And I understand now when you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 million invested in quarterbacks, you want to make sure those guys are protected. I get it, but it has changed, and it is a watered-down product. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I was in the league now and you give me a McCaffrey or, you let me go and the way that teams play, I would have made a lot of linebackers think about their day job. I'd have made a lot of them on Sunday say, do I really want to do this? Because I was coming downhill and I had bad intentions, and I know the game now, it's not – can you have that? Yes, you still can have that, but you got to have that coach, and that's why Kyle Shanahan is my type of coach, because if you're running hard and you're doing those things, I like Mike Shanahan too. They always carry the fullback. Aaron Craver, Fresno State, he played for Denver. All these different guys that Hal Shanahan loves to have a fullback. That's why I love this offense. I love what they do. So, man, this is my type of football team.
It's a different game now. I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals depth chart. I'm looking for the fullback. There is no fullback.
Yeah, what's going on?
They don't have a fullback. If you really want to study the evolution of the NFL, you really study that safety position. Now, the days of Ronnie, Chuck Cecil, Joey Browner, David Fulcher, Steve Atwater, guys that would blow you up. They don't exist anymore. They really don't. Now the Niners have some pretty good hard-hitting safeties. Tayshaun Gibson will crack you, but he's a coverage guy. He's a guy that has 35 career interceptions. Hufanga will blitz and rock you if he gets you at the right angle. But the days of David Fulcher, remember
John Lynch? Yeah,
David Fulcher
loved
him. 235 pounds, and he's basically a linebacker.
Basically a linebacker.
Those guys are. They might as well be like the T-Rex.
Right.
They're like extinct.
Yes, they are. They really are. You think about the big hitting safeties. John Lynch was one of those guys. You look at guys who would come downhill and get and play in the box, and could run. Joey Browner. You talk about that guy with the Purple People Eaters, Minnesota Viking. Loved Joey Browner. I used to play with him in Tecmo Bowl. Joey Browner. So I love to watch those guys play in those safeties because they meant so much to the defense. And now the game has changed. And I'm just excited to watch the Niners defense because they still try to play old style mentality football. They want to hit you, they want to wrap up, and they want to tackle. And that's why this team, if you looked at this Niner team over the last 5 years, even though Shanahan knows how to take care of his players at practice and all this stuff, you cannot say that Shanahan has a soft team. You have never seen a team that's soft. That's what Shanahan brings to the table. He's a young coach, but with an old school type of mentality of the physicality of the game. If you watch this team, they play physical.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. And last year, the stat that revealed it was every team that played the Niners last year lost the next week. There was a residual effect the following week after having played the 49ers.
No question.
And that's all about the physicality that they play with.
The impact that they leave on you, the game after the game, the impact that they leave on you because they're so physical, and they understand that, and that's why Shanahan does a great job. I don't know if you know this, but now they have ice boxes at practice. I'll go to the Raiders training camp, and they go in. Offense goes into it, in between drills. They go into a ice box, right? And they stand in there for 5 to 10 minutes, and it's like freezing in there, and they go back in practice. They're doing that now around the league in these different teams. I watched them do the joint practice.
Really?
Yeah, so I was at the Niners.
I haven't seen this yet.
Okay, so then when I went to training camp, and the Niners and Raiders had training camp in Vegas.
Well, no, granted, it's Vegas.
It's Vegas, so it's hot.
So maybe they're trying to cool those guys' body temperatures down,
but not just
quickly.
Yes, but it cools them down. It's Vegas, but it's still that brings back. Why do guys after practice get in the cold tank? Because it brings back. It helps the blood coagulates, and then it helps the blood flow better through the body. So these guys on some of their breaks, they'll go in there for 5 minutes, and they had the Niners go in there. So it's really, really neat to see just what modern technology and what science has done for guys to make sure the longevity in their bodies can be rejuvenated. So the Niners are a team that, they're going to make you go get in the cold tank. They're going to make you, think about the following week because of the way that they play. So Shanahan, though, kudos to him. Think about the mentality of the Niners. So the week after, other teams are losing, but the 49ers are still winning.
It's incredible. I was talking to a buddy of mine who lives in Arizona, and he said, Krug, I said, how do you beat the heat, man? He goes, it's going to be great next week. I said, what's it going to be? He's like, it's going to be in the 80s. I'm like, oh, my goodness. It's almost, there's Halloween decorations,
right.
and you're talking about maybe next week it gets in the 80s. I said, how do you guys beat the heat in Arizona? I don't know if I could handle it for the summer. I scouted with the Cardinals, but I scouted on the West Coast. I wasn't living there in Arizona. We went to Flagstaff for training camp, but basically I was on the West Coast.
Right.
He's like, I go to Costco, and then I go in the cold food section. I just stay in there because I just walk around. I go, you're staring at berries and mushrooms.
Are you serious?
Bok choy.
Are you serious? That's classic.
He's like, that's my only way. I'll go to Costco. It's cool at Costco, but then I'll spend the extra time in the extra cold room.
That's
there.
great. He's got it down, and that's the thing. If you can't beat him, join it. Go to Costco. You know what? I'm gonna have to try that because down in Fresno, we get 110 every now and then.
I know.
But just the training staff of the Niners and the strength coach and the things that they must do to make sure their guys are just physical and making sure their guys are able to be durable and finish the year. You got to give them kudos. And, me at 52 and, being able to get a trainer, my guy's, actually coming to the game today. His name's Mike. He's down in Fresno and he's, in San Fran at the game today. But having a training staff and having the right nutrition, having the right people that's training you to make sure the muscle mass and the muscle memory and those things are there. That's a science. It is a science. And that's the thing that I love about today's game is the training staff, the strength coach, being able to get guys to perform at a high level. That is so hard to do week in and week out, especially when you're playing physical football.
Yeah, they're taking better care of the players, better nutrition. I mean, the players eat oftentimes at the facility, and they eat well. And
Right.
they're eating good food,
Yep.
lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of protein. I mean, that's a big part of it as well. You can't be, hitting the drive-through,
Right.
And maintaining your strength and your conditioning throughout a long season. Probably the biggest takeaway from that Larry Sanders interview,
Yeah.
he compared Brock Purdy to Tom Brady.
Wow.
And you know what? I was reading about the great article on NBC Sports Bay Area where they talked to Ronnie Lott. And Ronnie Lott's like, "Hey man, if you don't see what's the greatness in Brock Purdy at this point, what are you watching?" He was asked about people who still question Purdy. He says, "I gotta laugh because it's evident when you play against certain people, you watch certain people and you watch what they do, you understand the timing that it takes to put the ball where you need to put the ball." And to me, I think that's what's interesting is I don't ever see him late. I don't ever see him late with the ball. Purdy's thrown 91 pass attempts through the first 3 games. He's yet to be picked this year. He's one of only 5 starting quarterbacks in the NFL who has yet to be picked. That same article had a quote from Brent Jones. Brent Jones, 4-time Pro Bowl tight end, sees Joe Montana in Brock Purdy. He says, "I think Brock is a cool customer, and that's really hard for people to appreciate. He's just such a young kid and hasn't had that much experience in the grind of football with all the spotlight, a playoff team, a team that should be in the Super Bowl this year, and the way the way that he just is so cool reminds me a lot of Joe Montana.
Wow.
Nothing ever fazed Joe. He was relaxed. He was calm in the huddle. Nothing could fluster him. Brock just seems like he has that same persona."
Wow.
Brent Jones comparing Brock Purdy to Joe Montana. Larry Sanders comparing Brock Purdy to a young Tom Brady.
That says a lot.
It really says a lot. I mean, a guy like me can sit here and say, "Man, I really like Brock Purdy." Heck with me. Listen to Brent. Listen to Sanders. Listen to guys who know an awful lot about football. They have the highest of praise for Brock Purdy, and it's impressive.
No question. I'm definitely going to give you my comments on the other side because I got a lot to talk about that.
All right, we're going to flip the card. We talked a lot about the Niners' defense and their ability to stop the Cardinals' offense. So let's flip it over and talk about the Niners on the offensive side of the ball against this Arizona defense. We do that next as we get closer to the Cardinals and the Niners. You're listening to 95.7 The Game.
So, what are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on the new TVs, and it looks like Samsung, LG, and Sony.
95.7 The Game as we get you ready for a Week 4 battle between the undefeated 49ers, who are coming off a 10-day break, and the Arizona Cardinals, who are coming off of an upset win over the Dallas Cowboys. And they'll kick it off here in Santa Clara on a perfect day for football in the month of September. Just an absolute glorious day. You just can't beat. You absolutely cannot beat what we're seeing. I should say the month of September. I said it's actually the 1st of October. Right. October weather in the Bay Area is spectacular.
Legendary. Feels great.
And it's going to be great. It's going to be an absolute beautiful day today. People are having a great time here at the Hilton, and they're having a little party out front.
Absolutely. They're getting it in.
Yeah, they're getting it in, as they say. And so far, JD has stopped by. We've had Larry Centers stop by. We're going to take it to the top of the hour. We've already talked a little bit about the Niners on the defensive side of the ball and how they deal with Dobbs and how they deal with James Conner, how they deal with Rondale Moore, how they deal with the Cardinals' explosives. Let's flip the card and talk about the other side of the ball.
We will, but real quick, I wanted to ask you a question because we didn't really get into it as much as I wanted to. If I'm Arizona and I'm putting Rondale, I know Moore, I'm going to put him in the slot. So I know he's your starting receiver, but I'm going to say, let's put him in the slot. I'm going to go 3 wides. I want to put him in the slot. You saw the success that the Rams had against the Niners. What is your answer? If you're playing Wilkes, I'm going to put you in the DC because I know you coach. I know you've been scouting. No. How are you going to account for him in the slot?
I think it's a mismatch in the slot because, when the Niners had Womack, you could have gone Womack outside opposite Mooney Ward, and you could have took Demo and put him in the slot, and Diamador Lenore
right.
In the slot. And I think that was the original plan coming out of camp. Then Womack got hurt. And so now what you're seeing is you're seeing Lenore and Mooney on the outside, and you're seeing Isaiah Oliver in the slot. Now, they really love Oliver, but he's a bigger guy, and he's better against bigger slot receivers.
Right.
I think you've got to bracket him in some way because you've got to make sure that you've got. First of all, you got to give him room, and you got to be patient. You're going to have to give him room. And I asked Steve Wilkes about this earlier this week. It's like you have a desire to put pressure on Dobbs, but you also have to give some of these speedy weapons that the Cardinals have a little bit of room. Otherwise, they can beat you over the top. And this is a Cardinal team that really can go beat you over the top, vertical, and you don't want that to happen. So he said he thinks the best way to do it is use your linebackers, drop them deeper, get it done up front against Dobbs with just using your front four, and make Dobbs be accurate down the field and basically have him – every time you're going to go to a guy like Rondale Moore out of the slot, if it's going to be on the line of scrimmage, that's one thing. But if it's going to be 5 to 10 yards down the field, make sure you have a linebacker that he has to throw over and then give him room on the backside so he can't run by you. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to force a guy like Dobbs to show that he's accurate. And his completion percentage has been high. It's like right around 70%. But those are difficult throws to make over the linebacker, but in front of the DB. And I think that would be the plan I would have. And I would mix coverages. You saw some man-to-man in the second half against Puka Nacua and the Rams in week 2, and I would mix coverages. I wouldn't just give him the same look. I'd give him zone. I'd give him man. I'd play off. I'd play up. I mean, I would. One thing about Dobbs, he's athletic. He's talented, but he hasn't played a lot of football.
He hasn't.
So give him a number of looks and maybe give him some phantom looks. Give him some looks pre-snap, and then roll into something different after the snap. So I think that would be the game plan I would have. Try to confuse him a little bit and try to show that he can be accurate down the field inside tight windows.
And I'm same church, same pew as you. And the reason why I'm saying that, because when you have a guy that's faster than Kua that played for the Rams, how are you going to stop a guy that's, Rondé, who's fast, quicker, and niftier? And
they did go up against Tutu.
Yeah, and
he's a burner.
He is. But if you can run the ball, like Arizona is saying, if Arizona wants to run the ball and you're asking the defense what type of pressure, now if you get the linebackers to make that step and now you have them able to run through because the linebackers pause their feet and stop their feet and he gets behind them and running through those zones and those deep overs, now you got him running on the run and now he sits down in between those zones. That's when it can be dangerous, and that's why, we talked about it. It's imperative that they don't get the play action and the run going, because if you do that, now Moore can run through. If the linebackers don't get back and then knock him off his track or knock him off his course, and he's getting a free run and he's too fast and they're in a trail technique, now he catches, can get upfield, split the other corner that's sitting in that zone and get north and south. That's going to be big to me today. So just kind of wanted to hear your perspective, what you do.
Well, and also I think the other key is you got to play clean football on the back end. You can't give these guys 30, 40, 50-yard gains on PI calls. Make them earn it. Make them. You've got the number one defense. You're strong on all three levels. You have Bosa. You have Hargrave. Make a guy like Dobbs. Make them travel the entire length of the field. Limit their explosives. But you got to play clean football. You can't be clutching and grabbing and that kind of thing and drawing big penalties. The biggest plays in football today are, the deep threat and penalties. You can't give them 40, 50-yard chunk plays either by PI calls because you're just grabbing a guy.
Right.
You're going to have to play. The Niner DBs are going to have to play with poise down the field and not just, he's got to step on you. Okay, but let's make sure Dobbs hits that. And if he beats you, he beats you. You tip your cap to him and you move on to the next play. But don't just clutch and grab, because against this team, you give them 50-yard gain and give them 1st and 10 at the 15. Well, guess what? They're not going to put the ball in the air the rest of the series. They're just going to hand it to Connor and they're going to punch it in, and you're going to be in a bad situation. All right, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
It's the Brock Purdy show today. And I asked Purdy this week about the differences. Last week he got blitzed 85% of the snaps. He threw for 3 bills. I mean, he was brilliant last week in recognizing the blitz. This Arizona game plan with Gannon is a totally different plan. They don't blitz. They blitz the lowest percentage in the entire league. So they're not blitzing, and yet they're getting it done with no-name rushers up front. They're getting heat on the quarterback, and they're not blitzing. So you're going to make Brock be accurate. The good news for the Niners is he is accurate. Let's hear from before we talk about it, let's hear from Larry Centers, because we just had Larry Centers on, and I thought the most interesting takeaway was what he said comparing Brock Purdy to Tom Brady. Let's roll it.
Funny you bring up Brady, because Brock Purdy, and I don't want to, like you say, put the cart before the horse, but Brock Purdy reminds me a lot of a young Tom Brady. He understands how to throw the ball.
Brock Purdy kind of reminded him of
Right.
Tom Brady.
Right.
And I thought that was really, really interesting from the standpoint that Brady's the best.
Right.
I mean, the best that maybe ever played.
That's what's
We're
so-
talking about a guy who was drafted with the last pick in the draft.
Like
who?
who?
People still this summer were like, I don't know if I believe in this guy.
Right.
And now you got a guy who was a really good football player in center saying, he kind of reminds me of Tom Brady.
That is so amazing when you hear Larry Centers talk about Tom Brady. Then you hear Brent Jones and you hear Ronnie Lott say that they remind you of Joe Montana. There's two quarterbacks. There's 2 quarterbacks in the NFL in the history. Every time you'd say, who's the greatest quarterback in the league or ever played, Joe Montana's name comes up, and they say, who else? And it's Tom Brady. And most of the times it's Tom Brady and Joe Montana, but it's always those 2 guys. And to hear the people that played this game and the guys that still play the game say that those similarities is Brock Purdy, I'm telling you, that right there is unbelievable praise. I don't care who you are. If 2 guys, Tom Brady and Joe Montana, is what people say that you emulate, or that's what you remind them of, my goodness, cut off my legs and call me Shorty. You got something there.
I mean, Brock Purdy has started and finished a total of 11 games.
Wow.
Okay, 11 games. His passing line in those 11 games, he's completing 67% of his passes, 2,021 yards, 20 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions with a 102.3 rating. He only has 1 turnover on the year. It was the T.J. Watt strip sack fumble in Week 1 against the Steelers there at Heinz Field. Other than that, Purdy takes care of the football. And just watching him on the binoculars last week against the Giants brought exotics all day. When I say exotics, I'm talking about exotic blitzes that you don't necessarily expect, and a number of different ones. Wink Martindale dialed up 85% blitz, and Purdy still completed 67% of his passes, but he threw at least 4 or 5 of them away. Just said, you know what? I don't have numbers. I got a free runner at me.
Throw it away.
I'm not going to have a huge negative play. Throw that away. I get outside the tackle box, so it's not a penalty, and throw it away onto the next down. You've seen it. That frustrates defenses, doesn't it?
No question, it frustrates defense to the max. It makes them say, "Oh my God, we're almost there," and this guy continues to throw the ball away. I like that Purdy caused that problem for defenses. And if I'm Arizona, since we're talking about what is Arizona going to be one of their keys, I don't come after Purdy. I keep him in the pocket, though, and I keep him in that box. I'm telling my defensive front, I said, you got to create a new line of scrimmage. You guys got to push that offensive line into his lap. I don't let him get outside the pocket, because Purdy outside the pocket could be dangerous. He's fast enough to hurt you with his legs. He's a great passer when he gets outside. I keep him in there. I play a lot of 4 and I play a lot of 8. At times, I have my linebackers look at the receivers, understanding things that want to come underneath. I say set my DBs at 5 yards so I can jump anything. Play outside shade to say, okay, I'm not getting beat outside, but I'm looking at stuff and I want to see it. I can see the quarterback, so I want to jump it. I got safe help over the top, playing a lot of 8. I know you play mostly 8 on the red zone, because you can get the red zone, you play cover 8. You put 4 on the goal line, you got 4 on the 10-yard line to make them throw in those windows. I'm playing a lot of 8. I'm keeping this guy in the box. That's what I'm doing if I'm the Cardinals. I'm saying I'm going to make my front 4 try to put the pocket in your lap, and I'm going to keep him in that pocket, and I'm not going to let him get outside of it.
Let's play the cut again here, because I think we might not been able to hear it here. But here is Larry Centers comparing Brock Purdy to Tom Brady.
Funny you bring up Brady, because Brock Purdy, and I don't want to, like you say, put the cart before the horse, but Brock Purdy reminds me a lot of a young Tom Brady. He understands how to throw the ball. You mentioned throwing the ball and when you run after the catch. He has a good mixture of when to throw the ball to the receiver and when to throw the ball to the open spot and let the receiver go get the ball. And that is always a hallmark of a good quarterback, because you're going to protect the ball at every turn by doing that. Very conservative. There's not a lot of flash and dash. And another thing that really stands out about Purdy is he's not afraid to take the check downs and get the money that's right in front of him. He doesn't always have to take the big chunk and make the big play. He's just consistent, and that's gonna reap dividends for this team down the stretch.
All right, a little bit there from Larry Centers, but that's pretty incredible that he would compare Brock Purdy to Tom Brady. Okay, so what is the offensive game plan today for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan against Gannon? And I asked Shanahan earlier this week, is this defense the exact same? Because Gannon comes from Philadelphia. The Niners played Philadelphia in the playoffs. I said, is this defense the same as Philadelphia's? And he's like, it's the same scheme. It's a very sound scheme. It's a tough scheme. But obviously the personnel is quite a bit different than what Philadelphia had. But I think the game plan today is crystal clear. You run the heck out of the football. The Cardinals are allowing almost 135 rushing yards per game. The Niners, the last 2 games against the Cardinals, have run it for 169 yards and 159 yards. This is a run-the-ball game. Now, I think it's going to be a lot of CMC, Player of the Month in the month of September, and he's been fantastic. But I think this is also a game low. The one thing that did impact the rushing game, we're not probably going to see Elijah Mitchell. He got hurt in Thursday's practice. But you're going to see Jordan Mason. And I think you're going to see Jordan Mason, it's going to be a lot of Jordan Mason and a lot of CMC today. Debo's going to go. Ayuk's going to go. Neither of those guys is quite 100%. Jennings is going to sit this one out. But I expect a lot of those 2 backs, CMC and J.P. Mason.
Yeah, so do I. And I can tell you right now, I would take that over. If you said, do they run for 150 or 160 like they did the last two times, I'm going to take the over. I think you're going to see a defense that's going to play a lot of 8 and a lot of cover 4, and they're going to try to say, look, we're going to try to make this guy beat us in the air. And I think the Niners are going to run them out of the park. I think that this might be a 200-yard day rushing the ball. I'm in the same church, same pew, because you have to. You're going to have to run the ball because they're going to try to sit there and play some coverage and make the coverage dictate where you go with the ball. So I look for this to be a physical type of game, and I think it plays into the Niners' hand, meaning that they had a longer week. They played Thursday night football, so they have a couple extra days. Kyle Shanahan gave them a couple extra days to get their body right, get healthy. I think this is going to be a physical type of game, and I think I like the Niners' chances.
Christian McCaffrey, by the way, if he scores a touchdown, there'll be 13 straight games, including the playoffs, where CMC has scored a touchdown. That, right now, he's got 12 straight games, and he's tied Jerry Rice in 1987 for the longest streak in Niner history. But what a perfect addition McCaffrey has been, huh? I mean, they knew he was the right guy for them, but he's even been better than advertised.
How about that? How about a guy that, because of his father, knows, Shanahan, and they go back and have a long history, and this family, it's interesting. And McCaffrey walks up and say, "Get me out of here," against the Panthers. Is that a true story? I don't know. Well, you heard that though too, and it's just. But guess what? I've said it to coaches, so I don't put it past. I think there's a lot of players, without a doubt, 1,000%, they have relationships with coaches, a Pro Bowl, whatever it may be, or just friends. And I have said it many a times, so I know guys say those things. And it's great that Kyle Shanahan went all in. Said, I don't care what it's going to take. Get this guy here because I know what he can do with my offense. I know he's a smart guy, and I know what he loves football. Put this guy in my offense with the way that we do things. Put McCaffrey in here, and we'll have success. So sometimes a lot of guys say that, and coach say, okay, buddy, whatever. But when you got a guy that's a generational talent in McCaffrey and what his football IQ is and how he prepares and how he loves football, this is not just a football player. He loves football. He's a student of the game. Reminds me of LaDainian Thompson. I always make that comparison because LaDainian Thompson, to me, him and Marshall Faulk, and I get Marcus Allen, throw him in there too. But some of the best receivers out of the backfield can do so many things, from lining up outside, inside, wherever you want to put him, and McCaffrey's on that list. He will go down as a top 5 ever, as far as, without a doubt, in my experience. I'm not saying he's a better runner than LT, not saying he's a better runner than Barry Sanders, but he probably caught the ball out of the backfield better than Barry Sanders. As far as route running, the things that he could do. You talk about Adrian Peterson, not saying he's a better runner than Adrian Peterson, but if you said the total back, catching the ball, doing the things, understanding it, McCaffrey, in my opinion, top 5, top 7, for sure, top 10. That's the kind of back he is because of the versatility, and that's why the great LaDainian Tomlinson was a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Marshall Faulk, because what they can do out of the backfield, also running the ball.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. I expect a dream scenario today for the 49ers is that they have prolonged drives, 10 to 15 play drives. Don't attempt to throw the ball downfield and take chances of getting your quarterback sacked or turnovers. Take control of the game by running the ball a lot and throwing short underneath. Long, extended drives that result in touchdowns. Get a nice, comfortable lead. Keep your defense on the field so that when they are on the field, they're just full bore energy, all at Dobbs and Connor.
Right.
And then just, rhythmically but slowly build your lead. 7-0, 10-0, 17-0.
Are you pitching a shutout today?
I'm just saying, this is the kind of way I would want to play this game: is long, extended drives, shorten the game. Get a lead. Don't take chances with the football. Because what do the Cardinals need? The Cardinals need turnovers, and the Cardinals need a lead.
Exactly.
So if you get a lead and you dominate the ball, and then all of a sudden make this second half, put the ball in Dobbs' hands and say, okay, big boy, let's see if you can let's see if you can bring your team from behind on the road against this defensive front. I think you're looking at blowout city at that point.
Agreed. He won't do it and he can't do it. So if that happens, you're right. It will be a blowout. I think tonight the biggest key for me is Purdy. I want to see Purdy continue to be Purdy. I want to see Purdy continue to be pretty and be pretty prolific. And I think a big key, what you're going to see tonight, what Purdy's going to do? He's got to win with his eyes. And what am I talking about, Larry? I think he's going to win with his eyes because they're going to play a lot of cover 4. Look here, Arizona's going to play some 4. They're going to play some 8. They're going to play a lot of zone coverage. Not going to sit there and play man-to-man. They understand what they have to do. They're going to have to keep this guy in the pocket. So I'm saying Purdy is going to have to win with his eyes. And how does he win with his eyes? He's going to be looking at the safety and making sure corners and safeties that they're looking one way, and he already knows. And that's what all these people that are coming on talking about what he reminds of Joe Montana and Tom Brady, because they won also with their eyes. They already know what they're going to get to that right side where they're going to go with the ball, but they're staring at the left because they want the safety. They're going to get them the nod right there, and they know those windows and know where that guy's going to be. And that's what Purdy does masterful. That's why he runs Kyle Shanahan's offense to me perfectly, because he knows where to go with the ball, and it trusts. It's a trust factor. He trusts that the receivers are going to be in that hole. He trusts that they're going to find that window where the ball is going to go. He's going to trust that they're going to throw the back shoulder fade. You watch Purdy when he's throwing the ball. It's timing. It's letting it go. He stays ahead. He's letting the ball go. He knows, anticipates where the receiver is going to be. Today is going to be one of those things when they have to throw the ball. He's going to have to win with his eyes and with the anticipation he's been showing you.
I would say the key word for the Niner offense today is patience. Be patient. Be very patient. Patient and deliberate. The Cardinals are 1-2, but they feel good about their 1-2 start, right? Because there are no expectations. Once Kyler was out, once they picked up their quarterback off the scrap heap, it was like there are no expectations. So they're 1-2, but they're feeling great. They beat Dallas last week. They're feeling fantastic. Cardinals have had all 3 of these games, though, on their terms. Where, the Cardinals have started fast in all 3 games. They've outscored their opponents in the first 2 quarters 54-20.
Wow.
So they're plus 34 at the half. They've been a really good first half team. In the second half, they've only scored on 4 of 15 second half drives, and they're not built to come from behind.
They're not.
So to me, it's don't let the Cardinals play this game on their terms. Don't let them establish the run and get a lead, and then explosives when everybody's loaded up on the box, because James Conner, you can't stop James Conner. Now you got an extra guy in the box, and now here comes the explosive play. And now Michael Wilson's burning you for 50, and Rondale got loose, and this guy got Hollywood Brown. No, that's their terms. You have to play the game on your terms. I'll tell you the other thing. I say patience. Cardinals have the second lowest blitz rate in the NFL. They only blitz 12% of the time. They're not blitzing. No. So they're going to make Purdy be accurate and show patience. And I think he should be able to do it today in this game. And then turnovers. Turnovers are going to be key. Turnovers are always key in the NFL. But Brock Purdy's taking care of the football to this point. The Cardinals are doing well turnover-wise. They get turnovers. They've gotten interceptions, I believe, in all 3 games to start this year. The guy to watch for is the rookie Catrell Clark out of Louisville, who's small, and you can burn him down the field. He's not the biggest guy, but he's quick, and he will jump passes underneath. So that, to me, that's keep the ball away from Catrell Clark and beware of where he is, and don't let him jump into your routes. And then long methodical drives, get a lead, and then say, Dobbs, you want to come back in the second half? Let's see you do it.
I like it. Larry, before we get out here, take me around the league. Let me know what's going on, buddy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's look around the league, and there's some surprises going on. Buffalo has put 48 on Miami's defense today. Buffalo's up 48-20 with 8 minutes to play in the fourth quarter in Buffalo. Broncos came rolling back.
No.
The Broncos have come rolling back.
Peyton hurt us.
That's right. He hurt us. It looks like Broncos may win on the road. They were down 28-7. It's 31-28.
They pull Russell?
And there's 32 seconds left in the game. Let me see if they pulled Russell in that game.
Wow, they came back from behind.
Yeah, what an incredible second half for Denver. No, Russell's in there. He's 21 of 28.
Oh.
He's thrown for 3 touchdowns. Jaleel McLaughlin has 7 carries for 72 yards. So that's the story there. Wow. Ravens are crushing the Browns 28-3. How about this? The Colts have come back up against the Rams.
No.
It's 23-23 at the 2-minute warning.
Shut the front door.
Indy.
Wow.
Buccaneers up 23-0 on the Saints.
Famous Jameis.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Commanders and Eagles tied up at 24 apiece. Commanders have the ball. It's 3rd and 22 on their own 18-yard line. How
much time in that one?
There's 3 minutes and 38 seconds left in that one. Steelers are getting drubbed by the Texans 30-6.
Look at our boy.
C.J. Stroud and D'Amico.
Right?
Tank Dell. There's a lot to like there.
Yeah.
Afternoon games, Raiders, Chargers. I believe that's
in Southern Cal.
Yeah, is that going to be the Purdue kid?
Yeah. I knew that was going to happen.
Aiden O'Connell.
Look, my son likes him. Said he's guy's pretty good quarterback. I like the guy.
Pats, Cowboys in Texas. Obviously, this game here. Chiefs and Jets tonight.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Monday nighter is Seahawks, Giants from MetLife. Lo, that's going to do it for us, man. Great stuff.
It's always great working with you, Larry. We'll do it again.
Seriously, man, I love talking ball with you. It was fun talking to Larry Centers, JD. Make sure you guys tune in. As soon as the game's over, I'm talking immediately after the game, 95.7 the game, post-game with our guy Grandy and Sterling Bennett.
Oh, that's going to be great.
So that's going to be fantastic. They'll
plenty to talk about, right?
They'll be. I think we're either going to be. I'm going to say the Niners win this thing, and they're going to be talking about the 4-0 Niners. Are they the best in football? And Dallas next week.
Why not?
But they also, I'll give it a 5% chance that the Cardinals pull the upset. And they're talking about the Niners' run D is not what we all thought.
Yeah, that's the 5%. I'd say that would be it, because if Arizona is going to pull the upset, you know it, Larry, it's going to be behind the legs of James Conner.
All right, that does it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks everybody back at the mothership. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Make sure you catch Grandy and Sterling Bennett after the game. Lo, let's go watch some ball.
No worries. Cheers. Let's do it.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game.
Hi, I'm Nabil Ahmed. At East Bay Law Practice, our mission is simple: to secure the best possible outcome for you. Whether it's getting your case dropped, avoiding prison time, or safeguarding your job, East Bay Law Practice is your go-to defense. If you're facing serious felony or misdemeanor charges, including